you about my guest, Kimberly Dvorak. That's D-V-O-R-A-K, award-winning national security, border security investigative reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. She is the senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. Also a TV correspondent, CW6 News San Diego, One America News Network. Remember her website, The KD Report. The KD Report. And she's streaming live, Periscope.com and Facebook, and occasionally on YouTube. Remember to spell the last name, D-V-O-R-A-K. That makes it easier for you to search this lovely lady. Hello, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself, Chuck?
I am pretty good. Lots of things going on.
As
your
usual.
Story that you came out with, I finally hit a couple of news, what would you call it, I guess? Well, organizations finally coming out.
Yeah.
Trump supporters shot and killed in Denver.
Yeah.
And you'll say, oh, okay, whoa, there's a lot of behind the stuff going on this one, isn't there?
Absolutely. I think, first and foremost, what I'd like to kind of get across up front is that the media has gone out of their way to say that most of these protests, they're mostly peaceful. They're just peaceful events. People are going to them, they're holding their signs, and then they're quietly going home after the event's over. Well, now we've learned that 9 News in Denver has hired security because they wanted to protect their journalists and their crew members who are out in the field covering these stories. The fact that they had to hire somebody suggests at least that they were fearful of their lives on a number of occasions and at these protest rallies that have grown accustomed to completely take over the media coverage as far as being these mostly peaceful. Thousands, millions of people are out doing this, and only every now and then do we see this violence. But now when we learn that they are...
And let us remind you, listener, once again, these people that are hiring the people to protect them are telling you about how they're peaceful protests. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Rub it in.
Yeah. And on top of that, with this particular incident, the gentleman in question, his name is Matthew Doloff, he's not even a licensed private security person. And so they had somebody, and in Denver, and it used to be a pretty, red state, but everybody from California is transplanted out there to Denver, especially. And there, you can't just walk around willy-nilly with loaded guns. And, here we have this, allegedly, security guard that the news station felt could protect them, did not have a license as required by law in the state of Colorado. And again, he met up with someone that he didn't agree with politically. The guy that was killed, Lee Kettner, who is a veteran of the wars. He is a hat maker, a very just normal middle class guy. After words ensued, he saw the men with weapons. He pepper sprayed to kind of get himself out of the situation, and he was shot in the face and killed by this guy who we now know from social media posts was a Bernie bro. He was a avid Trump hater. That he has multiple social media posts about supporting all of these democratic issues. So it was the clear line that was established here, I think, in we look at this tragedy, and you still see how stories are getting written and reported on. Because this was against a Trump supporter, the TV and news business, they are not saying that this is a Trump supporter. Just something went bad at an event. Nothing to say that this guy actually wasn't even licensed to carry the firearm or two, because the police found 2 handguns there on scene. And so you continue to see them carry water for the Black Lives Matter and the Antifa movement, which was what this was. You had a patriot rally downtown Denver in which Trump supporters came out in force to celebrate the president pray for the president to get better from COVID. And then you had, as soon as they, announced that, then the BLM and Antifa folks had their own counter protest, and they called it a soup drive. And they were supposed to remain a couple blocks away from where the Trump supporters were, and the police had barricades up so they could, watch over this. And then, bam! Here you see all the BLM and the Antifa folks, headed down the street towards the, Patriot rally, in the hopes of, I guess, having a brutal, confrontation here. And sadly, it ended in the life of a man who served this country, who had his son was with him there that day. And I mean, I don't know, as a family member, how you can sit and watch your father die literally while you're watching this, and wonder what the heck country are we living in, where this isn't, we're not seeing this on the news networks. I mean, and that includes Fox. They're showing a little bit of it, but not a lot about it. Why is that? Why are they not getting this story out?
Yeah. Confirmation takes number one, And what I'm hearing, Kimberly, is that due to the fact that this guy didn't even have a license, wasn't qualified, it now falls on Channel 9 News Denver, as they may get sued and be liable for everything that happened because they hired a guy who wasn't what he said he was.
Exactly.
And,
and I was going to say also, with regards to that, this wasn't the first time that they hired him. So they had multiple times to look into his background, look into his credentials, and ensure that he was a licensed person in that state to actually, be, work for whomever he may want to be a private, security guy. So they didn't even do their due diligence on that. They were brought in initially to, after the arrest was made, as was a Denver Post photojournalist who actually took pictures, and that's why we know what happened. I mean, there is a string of pictures and video out there where you can, watch exactly how this, all broke down from the confrontation leading up to the actual shooting. So, viewers can go out there if they would like to and watch this, and you can see exactly what was going on. Now, getting back to 9 News, we haven't seen any of their footage. Presumably, if that was their protector, they had to be standing right there. And where's that footage? Has that been turned into police custody? And we don't know. And they're not answering any questions as to why, or why not their footage would not be valid at this point. But again, I just think it goes back to this narrative that we see in the media. It's why people who are Republicans, by and large, don't watch mainstream media at all anymore, and they're quickly turning off, cable news as well, because they're not getting the entire story, and they're not saying, it's a matter of fact, we have 2 people involved in an incident. Here's the name, here's the name. Okay, this is what happened. This is what this person carried. There's no just the facts, ma'am, reporting out there. Everything has a slant and everything has an angle. And when I first learned about this over the weekend, I went to the Denver Post, to go see how they actually covered the story, and they refused to put in their story that this was a Trump supporter who was a veteran of wars. And then you had this other character that they had hired to protect them, which, I guess if it's mostly peaceful, why do you need to have security? But in any event, they aren't putting in there, they don't want people to know that the bad guy in this case was, someone who associated with Black Lives Matter, Bernie Bros, if you will, and alike. They don't put that in their story. So the second I saw any of that kind, whether it was Republican or Democrat, far right, far left, if you don't see the actual facts right in the story up front, then that they're not going to give you a complete and whole picture here. And I would hope that the people of Colorado, in particular Denver, would like to know exactly what's going on, and they'd like to find out why they aren't able to protect their citizens to have a peaceful rally downtown, which was permitted under the First Amendment. Why are they not allowed to, actually, be able to attend an event and know that it's going to be actually safe for them to attend to these events, when you have the other characters, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, whatever, Communist Party, whatever the groups are, running down the street, breaking barriers that cause Denver police to respond to them breaking out of the barricades and running down the street. It's outrageous what's going on.
I come to this question because I see in your report you were talking about how these patriotic songs are being sung, and I'm thinking, wow, that probably set off some people that hate the First Amendment.
Yeah.
So then that turns to, I guess the Colorado governor must be a Democrat who doesn't believe in, patriotic songs and church services and things like that. So let's get, is he
oh, yeah.
As far as you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, Colorado used to be a pretty reliable red state, but there's been a lot of people that have been leaving California, and they've been going to either Texas or Colorado. And in the case of Colorado, they have slowly turned that state blue. It's pretty blue now. And when people leave a state like California, they usually bring their politics with them or their ideas with them. They want to get away from the taxes and the regulations that are stifling them in California, but they have no problem going to another state and presumably slowly changing the system there. So I don't know what state they go to next, because this is what's going to continue to happen. And, California, of course, born and raised in California, but I just, you can't leave a state and then expect to vote for Democrats in your new state and think that you're going to have different outcomes. The exact same thing is going to happen. But I just think that with this, the COVID involved in all this kind of, a lot of people, have cabin fever, perhaps they're struggling. They want to, that for the most part, a lot of, states, you can't even go to church. So a lot of people that would normally be on church on, Saturday or Sundays, they're not able to go, but you can go to rallies, you can go to protests, you can, walk into Walmart and shop after how many people in that Walmart actually touched all this different things. And I think when you see the moral breakdown and, the inner city decay that we're seeing right now, it's the respect's not there. People aren't able, if you go to church or you read from the Bible, you go to Bible study or whatever, when you get done with that, you feel a sense of, calm, and you're going to go out and live your life accordingly. You're not going out and robbing 7-Eleven, busting down the window and stealing Gucci. That's typically not associated with that. But with governors across this entire nation shutting down churches, that also has to have some sort of effect as to what's going on within these communities.
Yeah, but you got to realize now they have an answer for that, stealing and looting and all that. It's reparations.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, you owe us. So
well,
it's okay if we steal what.
Still pretty certain that God would not, sanction the stealing for reparations. I'm fairly certain. I could be wrong. I'm blonde. I realize that. I'm fairly certain that God would probably say, you know what, that's not the right thing to do. In a lot of instances, when people do these things, it's a testament to who you are when nobody's looking. Because if nobody's looking and you're going to steal, it doesn't, you're not a good person. You're not really following the ways of God here. So it comes down to those kind of things. I'm just saying that, a lot of these younger people, they're lost in society right now, and it's hard for them to, find a job but the one thing that should, be out there for people to actually turn to in times of crises, and it has in the past, is going to church or watching it on, on your YouTube channel, whatever it may be.
Yeah. I got to tell you, though, that I'm sure, the other side, all right, not the ones that were singing the patriotic songs, but the other side, according to your report, Kimberly, all they were doing was having a soup drive, trying to get soup for the homeless, I guess. Is that what it was?
I don't know, and there's been no reports as to how much soup they collected.
Yeah. Were they trying to collect soup, or were they giving out soup to somebody? It certainly wasn't to the police department.
Yeah.
But then who knows, because you also have like an hour in for this protest protest, police had fired what appeared to be pepper balls, and one protester burned a thin blue line flag,
Yeah.
pardon me, in front of the officers, saying, "Who do you think I stand for?" You know?
Yeah.
Yes, really.
So if this is the society that they want to live in, then they can live in the society. But I suspect that the majority of this country, by overwhelming numbers, and by that I mean probably 85 to 90% of America, does not want to live in that world. Yet this is what's being propagated, and this is what's being pushed out there, saying we need to like turn our country upside down so we can, fix everything that's broken in the country. Which I'm not sure what that will solve, but it typically doesn't work out very well with other countries who go through that process.
Yeah, and we don't need police. Defund the police. Even if you're not talking about the crazy rioting going on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Think about traffic. And maybe it's because I'm out here in California, Southern California. And if you have no police, good luck on the freeways or any road in California. The KVReport.com. In your report, excellent report, let me throw that word in there. You're talking about this guy, James Rotten. Now that's getting off on the wrong foot right there. James Rotten. Anyway, manning the table of books about communism. Does that tell you what they're really, really for at the rally on this soup drive? But here it is. He was leading the chant such as, and it's so clever how this just flows for you, right? No cops, no KKK, no fascist USA. No cops, no KKK, no fascist USA. You know what? They're so stupid, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Here they are talking about no KKK. They should have talked to the Democrats a long time ago when they formed the KKK.
Yeah.
Study your history books, you little
Yeah.
clown.
I'm not,
Chuck.
I'll make like a little comment here, but I'm going to say this. I don't think anybody's accusing these people of being smart or well-read or know anything about history, let alone history of this country, because it's not really taught too much in public schools, K through 12 anymore, and good luck in college. So I don't think that anybody here is going to accuse these people of being smart and well-read. Now, where all their money's coming from to continue these protests, now that's a question that's worth investigating and looking into. But for the vast majority of these, folks, they have been longing for a catalyst to get them to the promised land as far as just turning up the country, turning it upside down, and seeing what an absolute disaster it has turned out to be. And what we've seen the entire summer, and now, of course, going into October, and as we hit the November elections, we continue to see crime, we continue to see rioting and windows busted in cities across the country. A dozen people or so killed in just Chicago over the weekend. Nobody seems to want to care about the people who are actually getting shot. Maybe if they weren't blaming the police might show up and do things. And this is the problem with all of this. It comes down to when they say, we want to abolish the police department or severely restrict them, and that the people that really need this, and I go back to Barkley, and I know we talked about Charles Barkley last weekend a little bit about it, and Shaq as well, two basketball greats. And, they said, look, you know what, what's going on with the police defund, forget about it. The people that need the police are the ones living in these communities. And if you take that away, then it's just going to be completely taken over by gangs and cartels and the like running those cities and then selling that safety to these people.
Somehow, defund the police and Chicago and Black Lives Matter, there's something that just doesn't quite go. I mean, that little no cops, no KKK, no fascist USA, at least, it's clever. But when you talk about Chicago and no cops and Black Lives Matter, you need to go in and rewrite that. It's not going to make it. It won't even become a
bumper sticker,
a daily show. Yes. Maybe they need some new writers, Kimberly. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day, the law enforcement in general is doing a good job under these incredibly tough circumstances. And I really tend to believe that all this stuff's going to go away on November 3rd. if the Democrats win. If not, then it's going to be probably a very tumultuous 4 years to come.
Yep. And unfortunately, we still have the mainstream media still putting out the lies, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Every day.
All righty. Thank you very much, and look forward to our next visit. Kimberly Dvorak.
All right.
Dvorak. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
And it's theadreport.com. Leo Holman.